help offset the cost of that type of set-aside. Revenue measure, one of them is closing the partnership loophole. The other is increasing the transfer tax, and also offering some tax credits against that to seismically improve destruction of your house, as well as doing solar updates. So, and then there's an important likely public power measure that may come forward. Can you talk about those particular initiatives and any others that you see that are going to be on the ballot in November? You each will have 2 minutes to talk about these very important issues, and you can choose which of the issues on the November ballot you want to discuss. And let's start in the middle here. Wilma, will you start, and then we'll go to Denise down that way, and then we'll come back.
Well, in 1 minute, you got 1 minute. Yeah. One breath, you're talking about all those issues. But I would choose parcel tax because as a professor at City College for the last 3 years, and also I worked with a lot of kids in San Francisco, I think it's important to give education a priority. Not only because as a teacher, but I think it's also a survey saying that what is the most important issue facing the city. I was surprised to find out education. So if you have kids living in the city, or try to have kids stay in the city, parcel tax is, to me, is most important. How are we going to do it is, well, the tax right now is confined to a certain area. And I think having like parcel tax for the school will add to charter schools that will attract students or come back to San Francisco, and also have kids staying in this the city. So that's one issue. Affordable housing is something that is very important, especially in North Beach and in our area. The density is so humongous. Chinatown needs affordable housing, and I think I'm the only one here who's been a renter all my life. I never owned anything. I don't own a car, and I don't live I live in a rented house. So to dream that I can buy a place or afford to buy a place is probably my next life. You know, I'm 67, so if by the time we make enough money to buy a house, it is going to be really hard. But I still dream of owning a place. Never did happen, but if it's happened, I really want to look into the affordable housing for this district, for my district.
Thank you.
Well, I spent my 24 years at the Telhai Center, most of it working on housing issues and issues for families.
We can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I said I spent the good part of my 25 years at the Telhai Center working on issues of affordable housing and maintaining affordable housing, mitigating out of new projects, mitigating affordable housing units. One of the key things that I worked on, and it literally took 20 years of my time, was the rebuilding of public housing in North Beach. This district has a lot of public housing, and we successfully, although it took 20 years, finally successfully replaced one-for-one housing, public housing, and also affordable units. This was the only project at the time in the Hope 6 program that actually had overwhelming support from all sides of the community. I have negotiated directly with other developers for units. One of the things facing our district is huge evictions going on in Ellis Acting. Mostly elderly and families are being affected, and so that's another horrible issue, and then they're being converted into TICs. The other, one of all the things mentioned, I guess, my other issue is also around education. I believe that the next generation coming up, it's important for us to keep families. It's important for us to have working families in this city. And one of the key issues to that is having a good school, good schools, and there can be bridges built between the Board of Supervisors and the school district to make those community schools stronger.
Yeah, well, let me start with the question on public power. First of all, it's no longer called public power. We've got to get away from that notion. Call it something like green municipal energy, green clean municipal energy. I am involved in drafting that ballot measure. I strongly support it. Right now, under community choice aggregation, the city is mandated to come up with 50% renewable energy by 2017. So that's obviously not enough. By 2030, this ballot measure will provide 75%, what I call clean energy. That means non-nuclear. 2040, we're at 100%. Let me get to your question on real estate transfer tax. I remember when Matt Gonzalez proposed doubling the real estate transfer tax, and he was attacked by then mayoral candidate Gavin Newsom as doubling the property tax. Well, that's not the case. I certainly support doubling the real estate transfer tax to over $2 million, which is, I believe, what Supervisor Peskin is proposing. I think Supervisor McGoldrick's proposal for doubling it at a lesser amount than $2 million, I'd have to take a closer look at. I do believe there should be offsets. I think the mayor wants to do some offsets. I personally would like to see the real estate transfer tax increase used for affordable housing. I think that would be a great solution. At our first debate 2 weeks ago, I was the only one to speak out for the housing justice measure. But the one concern is that it's a mandate, and we're going into the small amount of the budget that's discretionary, and I'm concerned about that. But nonetheless, we can figure out a way to handle that. Beyond that, I don't have much more to say because I'm out of time.
Nobody has talked about tax credits for seismic improvements, so I guess I'll be the first one to talk about it. I live in on the northeast waterfront, just very, very close to where landfill is. Maybe I'm almost living on landfill. So emergency preparedness has been a priority to me, and I hope that to all of us, because we do live in earthquake zone here in San Francisco. So I fully support the tax credit for seismic improvements. We have just read about reports on how unsafe, seismically unsafe of many of the buildings are in San Francisco, including in Chinatown. Many of the old masonry buildings really needs to be sorted up. And having served for 5 years as president of the Treasure Island Development Authority, I cannot tell you how many times I've made the point about emergency preparedness and seismic safety, because we are on an island which really have a lot of questions about seismic safety. Along that line, I would like to talk about affordable housing. It's clearly one of the most significant issues both for the district and for the city. I'm totally in favor of affordable housing, but we need to look at how to achieve affordable housing. On Treasure Island, we have been able to achieve 50% affordable for the redevelopment. I am a little concerned about setting aside in the budget to achieve affordable housing goals. I think when we talk about affordable housing, we should also look at both for renters as well as for those who own their first home. A lot of people in this district and in this city would like to have the opportunity to have their first home. So I think that when we look at how best to achieve affordable housing, I think we should consider of both people that would like to continue to be renters and those that like to have their home. I think I'll stop.
No, actually, you have 15 seconds.
15 seconds? Great.
Go for it.
And lastly, about the business transfer tax, I'm really very concerned about the economic environment for the businesses in this city, especially the small businesses, and I would not go for any tax increases at this point unless I really understand the implications on small business and small property owners. Thank you.
I'll try not to get my red card too fast here. I favor all revenue measures before the ballot, particularly daily set-aside. This can be the one lasting legacy of the class of 2000. We should all get behind that, especially the members of the board on their way out. There's a more important issue on the state ballot bill. It's gay marriage. And the NRA is suing us also. They're going to have a thing on. Last time we had gay marriage, remember 2000? You're going to have some really horrible, horrible people coming in after you here. The Reverend Lou Sheldon, somebody gave him $50,000, and he wanted to put gay people in, he called it city sanctuaries. He was HIV positive, city sanctuaries. That's concentration camps. At the time, Rob Morris, writing for the Examiner, said, guess which city's going to be first when we do that? The NRA is exactly the same thing. The NRA sued the city of San Francisco last week. The city of San Francisco came back today and said, we're going to sue you right back. Why do I bring up these two issues? Because one of the partners of David Chu is in fact the guy that gave him $50,000.
Red card.
Okay, red card, that's one.
You're out,
Two.
baby.
So then you're
You have a
saying
right to know.
He had a
You have a
yellow.
right to know.
We're not going to.
We're gonna hear from next speaker.
And wait till you're back.
Well, I have to say this because, again, my name is Earl Thibodeau. I'm from District 3. I think one of the, truthfully, the really basic things that we need to look at this point is that education. If we already got kids, people robbing everybody, they're on the streets already. If we close all these schools, where do you think those kids are going? I mean, honestly, I don't know. There's no jobs. The house is getting ready to lose. They're getting ready to lose their house. We're already complaining people are robbing us. We're afraid our cars are getting scratched. They got a new way to scratch all those small business windows. Education, if we don't inspire people to feel proud about themselves and the space that they live in, they ain't gonna respect adults, they ain't gonna respect kids, anybody. And kids got more energy than us adults. I work out every morning, I have a lot of energy, but it's not gonna be enough. So they're getting all hypey. So folks, we really need to look very clearly and hard at the educational system. Oakland has, so as far as my feelings on education, I build computers, and I just wrote 2 letters to Microsoft and Adobe to get free licenses so that there's a program set that they have a computer that can learn whatever program they want to, but they must show up to school. If the schools look better than the streets, I guarantee you they want to get paid to go to school. Affordable housing, the same thing. Stop being so greedy, folks. We got the beautiful city. If you got good tenants that's going to live there forever, you don't have to worry about it. You can go to Thailand wherever you want. Be happy. Because if you got to keep on training somebody to come in your place, it's going to cost you. And you're going to get tired of it. Then you ain't going to have any feelings, and you're going to get calloused by people. Now you don't know who to trust. We really need to take a hard look at what we have and how much of it we do.
Affordable housing is an issue that addresses and touches at least a half a dozen components of quality of life in the city. First of all, the entire direction now in terms of healthcare is not to put people in boxes up on a hill, but community-based home care services. If we can't have people who can afford to live in the city to take care of the elderly and the homebound by means of affordable housing, how are those people going to be cared for? So you see the importance of affordable housing in that regard. Public safety. If we can't have our police and our fire personnel afford to live here in the city, how can we be protected in the event of an earthquake or, God forbid, some type of a terrorist activity or something of that nature? Thirdly, our city is the oldest, if I can use the word old, meaning senior, as a commissioner on aging. We don't have young people. We need young families here. We want diversity. We want to see our schools begin to move in the right direction. So younger people need, 1 minute, younger people need to be able to afford to live in San Francisco. And obviously the people who built this city, we the seniors, we the people, we should be able to afford to live here too. So certainly we want to make sure we have affordable housing for our seniors. I also was appointed to the Mayor's Council for the 10-year plan for homelessness. The homeless need affordable housing, and that's why we have to work on the supportive housing program, which I have worked with Angela Alioto to write the plan. In fact, she said, Mike, it couldn't have been done without you. Certainly it could have been done without me, but it wouldn't have been done as well, because I brought a perspective that was needed. So for that reason, I ask you to stay focused on affordable housing. Make sure we do it in a way that works. And I'm not too sure that the way it's going now may be the right way, but let's put our best brains behind it to make it work. Thank you.
I'm going to talk for a first moment about affordable housing, because I think of all the candidates here, I've worked on this issue as much as anybody. First, for the last 12 years that I lived in District 3, I have lived as a tenant. As a civil rights attorney, I've actually represented tenants who are being evicted from their affordable housing. In fact, this year, with some folks in this room, I've worked on one of the largest Ellis Act evictions in District 3, happening in North Beach. As someone who has worked with affordable housing advocates, I know how incredibly important it is for us to have a source of money, of city revenues for this. And this is why I support Chris Daly's affordable housing measure in November. I also want to talk about a little bit about revenue measures. I sit on the city's Small Business Commission, and that is a commission that has many members of the business community. And for someone like myself who shares the values that we all have here in the room, it can be a very lonely place. Just to give you an example, I was the one person on my commission that voted against an ill-fated Wi-Fi program. I was one of 2 members of my commission who supported sick leave legislation. And I'm the only commissioner who's been talking about the importance of thinking about creative solutions to revenues. And I want to just put out 2 ideas. First of all, I think there are ways for us to squeeze and enforce our current real estate tax collections. I actually suggested to our city to our city assessor, that we create a real estate whistleblower program, so that big downtown companies that aren't paying their fair share be penalized for that. A couple months ago, we saw our first whistleblowing case. We brought $1.4 million of additional revenues into the city at no additional cost to taxpayers. But all that being said, I also support the revenue measures that have been proposed by the supervisor, because we are in a crisis. We need to make sure we have enough money for health care, for mental health services, and all the other things our city needs, and that's why I support our revenue measures. Thanks.
Well, first of all, I'd like everybody to know that I too started as a tenant. And affordable housing is a major issue, because I today am a real estate broker. And I see the difference in what happens with the Ellis Acts, and when people get thrown out of their houses, and when people want to rent to old people. I had a client come up to me and said, Sal, I have a choice of renting between a young person and an old person. And I'm afraid I don't want to rent to the old person, because they're going to stay there for the rest of their life. That's the cutting edge of all of this different Ellis Act and tenants and all of this. We've got to be careful of what we do. I am for making more affordable tenant housing. I believe, first of all, there's not enough buildings being built for tenants, and affordable buildings for tenants. You have to start at the bottom, and you start to work your way up to the top. People eventually want to buy their own home. I see that happening every day. That's the American dream. That's your tax deduction. People don't like to spend money on rent, giving money away to an owner. So we have to find a way, a step, to get people in the system, and that also starts with good schools, by the way. Hand in hand, real estate, good schools. bad real estate, bad neighborhood, bad schools, bad neighborhood, it's symbiotic. You've got to make this education good, then your neighborhood gets better, then your businesses get better. It all works, but you have to start down at the basic. If we don't start at the basic, we're going to go on a pipe dream.
The Harvey Mill Club has been involved in lots of civil rights struggles over the decades. In this last couple of years, our community has been involved in some pretty amazing civil rights struggles. The right to marry, as well as the Non-Discrimination Act in Employment, which our club actually proposed include gender identity protections. That was actually dropped through the process in Congress. Do you support gender identity in the Employment Non-Discrimination Act? And I don't know if you are familiar with the Human Rights Commission fundraiser event every year, but the Mill Club is asking all of you to boycott that event and to boycott HRC events until such time as they include gender identity in the anti-discrimination list. So can you? Very simple.
Yes.
1 minute. 1 minute to vote. So,
Truthfully,
Repeat your name for the audience.
yes,
Okay.
repeat your name so we all.
Earl Thibodeau, French last name. We don't have enough good people. I don't care what you are. You come in whatever you want to be. If you're a good person, you give it to the community. I don't have any problem with you. I really don't. It isn't about that anymore. We need everybody we have. We can't afford to kick anybody out. The work that needs to be done is going to take all of us. And by looking at somebody and saying you don't like them or whatever, I'm sorry. So yes.
Yes, you're supporting the boycott?
Yes.
We'll see you in front of the building.
I'd like to detail in my lifetime career, track record speaks for itself in terms of complete non-discrimination from race, color, creed, national origin, sexual persuasion, orientation, identity, whatever the case may be. That's where I am. I have a record. I stand on it. I'm proud.
Again, I'm David Chu, and in a past life I was a civil rights attorney fighting for equal rights. 12 years ago when I worked in Washington, D.C., I fought with a small band of Democratic staffers to unsuccessfully wage a war against the defense of America. This is something that's incredibly important to me. So the answer is absolutely yes, and I want to just say that as a member of the Central Committee, I helped to co-sponsor a resolution along with former Mill Club President Robert Holland to include gender identity in ENDA. And of course, I would be happy to boycott the HRC.
Just a moment ago, I told you I was a real estate broker. Sal Buzalaki. Just a moment ago, I told you I was a real estate broker. Well, let me tell you what I was 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, when I was in my 20s. I was a hairstylist. All right? First-rate hairstylist in San Francisco. I have never discriminated from ever. I never will, and I will boycott. I'm a real estate broker, and it's against the law for me to discriminate anyway. So I have never discriminated. If anything, I've been discriminated against because I was the first hairstylist in San Francisco.
My name is Wilma Payne. I fully support the boycott. See me as an Asian American woman. It's already a discrimination in many cases. So without saying anything, I don't want to go any further. I support the boycott.
Denise McCarthy, I also support both levels. I just want to tell you a quick story though. Sunday morning, I marched in the Pride Parade and I had to leave to go to a meeting, and I got out at I left the parade at about Stockton Street. I had my lei on, etc., and lots of bright colors, and I was walking up the street, and this woman walked by and yelled, "Faggot." And, you know, I get goosebumps right now, but I mean, it was like, my God, you know, there are still people out there like that. So your answer? My answer is yes.
Tony Ganner, of course, I'm against discrimination in all its forms, and I will support any boycott that you want. I don't know what it is, but clearly I will be in solidarity with you. But let me say something else. There are other rights that are emerging here that we have neglected for millennia, and those are the rights of the environment. And you know, I went to the 30th anniversary party, and in this kaleidoscope that's emanating from Harvey Milk's heart, and I knew Harvey Milk when I worked in George Moscone's campaign for mayor, there's environmental activism. And we also have to talk about the rights of the environment. As far as I'm concerned, they are equal to human and civil rights. Perhaps even higher, but we're not there yet, okay? So let's talk about human and civil rights, but let's also keep in mind the environmental rights.
Yes. Yes, the right to marry, and I'm very much support the boycott. As the president who has, in my younger days, served as the president of one of the largest Asian Pacific American civil rights organizations that is headquartered in DC, I feel very much that we are all equal, regardless of all the categories that we have named. I don't need to repeat them. Whether people call anybody faggot, or still have people calling us chains, or around the country there are many places, like I still have a lot of Chinese American friends, and when you walk down the street, and from time to time, they get money to go back home. Like back home where? This is home. So I very much appreciate the struggle of so many levels in our community, in our society, and I'll definitely fight with you. And yes, then yes.
Okay. I'm going to go now to questions that have been submitted, some to specific candidates, and I'm going to try and have a question for each one. Mr. Denuzio, you were a member of the San Francisco Republican County Central Committee. Will you vote to have the San Francisco Republican Party, I'm going to amend this, will you work to have the San Francisco Republican Party support gay marriage by opposing the charter amendment, or the Prop A that's going to be on the ballot that will define marriage as between a man and a woman?
If the matter is put on the agenda for any type of discussion, I certainly will express my views regarding discrimination, my work over the years, toward the best of partnership and full rights for everyone. I have my many good gay and lesbian friends who I am absolutely delighted, the happiness that marriage will bring to them. So that view will be expressed by me. How the details of it work out is beyond my control, and I'm sure you understand.
So you can't put it on the agenda as a Democratic County Central Committee for a vote? Excuse me, Republican.
I cannot put it on the agenda. The chairman will put it on the agenda, if indeed it's going to be.
Okay. This is from someone in the audience. My organization works with transgender Latinas in the Pope Gulch and Lower Nob Hill area who are harassed by police and do not have support system in place because of their undocumented status. What do you think can be done as their supervisor?
Well, I've worked over the years with many, many families that were undocumented, and so I think that that's an issue, but we can certainly still provide people safety and support. My feeling about issues around that specific kind of an issue, but also the broader issues around working with the police, is that there has to be bringing the community together and bringing the police together to deal with these issues. I would have the group work closely with other support organizations in the district and beyond the district. I would want to meet with them. I would want to know exactly what is going on with the harassment. I would want to bring in the police captains and try and work that out.
David Chu, the Harvey Milk Club, the San Francisco Bay Guardian, and the San Francisco Tenants Union have all endorsed Aaron Peskin for district 3 chair. Last week he was honored as Man of the Year by the SF Labor Council. Who are you voting for as district 3 chair?
As some folks may know, that there's a current discussion among the Democratic Central Committee about future leadership of the party. I obviously am quite close to Supervisor Peskin and have been talking to him about what we feel is in the best interest of the Democratic Party as well as for the progressive movement. And all of this is in flux right now, and I actually hope to speak to him about this evening. I think I will do, and Supervisor Peskin will do, what is in the best interest of this community and the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Claudia?
Sorry?
Yes. With Lennar winning the contract in Bayview and Proposition F failing, Proposition G winning, what is your plan to help offset the shortage of low-income housing? As a supervisor, you may well have votes on project plans in Bayview, Hunters Point. What do you think should be done to increase the availability of low-income housing, not just in Bayview, Hunters Point, but across the city?
I think we should really look at incentive programs and not just, I think there needs to be a lot. I think it's unfortunate that we have to take resources.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you, so maybe just a little, you can start again. I'll touch you again, but I don't think people will probably hear you.
Affordable housing, I think it's very important that we provide very low-income housing. I think one idea that we've been talking with actually with some members of the police force as well as some teachers, that why can the city, since we are committed to protect tenants and rent control, why can't we be creative about creating housing and making sure it's affordable for those that we like to have them live in the city because they provided their lives to workforce in the city, and why can't we also include them in the category of people that we protect in terms of in the area of affordable housing? If we can be so much in favor of rent control, so why can't we look at possibilities of just maybe just looking for revenues and ways to make sure that we assist those people like members of the police, fire, teachers, nurses. Why can't we find a way to assist them for whether it's for purposes of rental or if for some reason they have a family they like to purchase their own that they can. I think we should look at creative ways to do it.
This is for Tony Gantner. Do you believe that the service workers, artists and musicians, teachers and social service providers, the heart and soul of San Francisco, deserve a place to live and prosper in District 3? And if so, what are the public policy positions you've taken that will assure that they remain part of our cultural fabric?
I've been an attorney for over 30 years, and I've represented 50 or 60 tenants in eviction proceedings. I'm a strong supporter of the San Francisco rent control law. I would like to see additional adjustments in the Ellis Act. Personally, I'm against the Ellis Act, but right now that's a state issue and not a city issue. What I try to do throughout my years as an attorney is to represent those people that are least able to defend themselves in eviction proceedings. And if you take a look at the table over here, there's an article from the Chronicle that I hope you read. It'll show you the kind of work that I've been doing for tenants. So up to this point, I've always represented tenants. It's hard to say what more we can do. We need affordable housing, particularly in Chinatown, and we need to rebuild some of the aging projects there. Beyond that, I support the housing mandate by Supervisor Daley, and that's all I have to say at this point. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
brief public service announcement, which is that many of you know that this is a qualifying meeting to participate in our PAC endorsement process. But to be able to participate, we have to be able to read your name that you've signed in the back. And a couple of those signatures are absolutely illegible. So if you think you might have an illegible signature, you should stop by and say hello to Terry at the end, not now, not now, not now, at the end of the debate.
Sal, we recently read in the Chronicle about the Pagoda Theater and the challenges that seem to be present for developing that in any way at all. I wonder what your position on that is and what your concepts are.
For all of you that don't know what the Pagoda Theater is, it's a movie theater, basically where I got my first kiss. I also got my first slap. I guess it was the same person. No, different time. So anyway, right now proposed is to build a restaurant down below, a retail on to the left of the restaurant, and above that, high-end condominiums. The problem that I see with everybody that wants to have a theater there is if you spend $3 million to buy the property and $9 million to develop the property into a first-rate theater, you have no parking. Anybody would be a fool to try to build a theater and give away $11 million, $12 million, because that would be ludicrous. I am for what they're doing, but I don't like the way it is being made. It should be more in keeping with the integrity of the surrounding neighborhood.
Is that what you said in the paper, Sal?
I changed my mind since the last time. I'm allowed to do that because somebody brought me some other photographs that I thought it would be better. I like the concept. I don't like the way it looks on the outside.
So, Wilma, what will you do to end the widespread corruption in nearly every city department, from police to fire, to DPW, to the housing department, community, to parks and rec?
Well, I'm going to be a saint. Well, in corruption, this is really like a string long to do it. What I would do is probably start from a very painful bottom. I think life is not a bowl of cherries. I just want to say that, why am I saying this? Because when I was born, I was not predicted to live beyond my childhood. When I got married and had children, I had severe depression. And then now I'm 67, I say, whatever it is really hard work and really understanding how to do things step by step. There is a philosophy in East saying that Tai Chi and Kung Fu. We all think Kung Fu can beat anything, but it's like the mountain and water. Water has more strength. Now, maybe I'm talking Turkey, that how are you going to learn Turkey? You have to really to be a very sincere person and not a corrupt person yourself to treat corruption.
What do you think of the fiscal crisis facing the San Francisco Unified School District, and what do you think the role of supervisor should be in helping the SFUSD solve that crisis? Sure. What do you think of the fiscal crisis facing the San Francisco Unified School District, and what do you think your role as supervisor should be in helping solve those problems?
Okay. Well, as far as the school problem, schools, Earl Thibodeau, again, Earl Thibodeau. schools, folks, that is it. That is everybody's problem. Again, I know that we all have a lot of stuff that is compounded on top of us. I'm telling you, on my private time, I wrote Microsoft and Adobe to give me licenses. Somebody needs to take a pay cut up in the front. If you're a leader, I ain't gonna say anybody's name because I'm not into saying bad things about people. But when it comes to our schools, at some point we have to say what's more important. Again, I have to say, in every question everybody said in here, it was based around education. Everything. Okay, so again, if my role as supervisor would be trying to coordinate between getting these companies that are killing us with all the money they're making off of us to get back to the school so we can facilitate some of these kids back in school so they can put stuff back into our community. And my job would be trying to inspire people.
Okay. This is a question to all of you about development. We all see the large buildings going up and realize that they're full of pretty costly condominiums. We hear the planning commission battles with the development community claiming that providing any more of anything, including affordable units or community benefits, will make their projects unbuildable. The myth, in fact, is that we can't build low-cost housing because builders want 30% profit, or that is what the expectation is. So what is your proposal, especially seeing the tendency for focusing and just putting bunches of these tall buildings together with expensive condominiums? How are we going to be solving affordable housing if that's our attitude, and the developers seem to run the planning commission? So you each have 2 minutes to talk about this. And start with David.
Okay. I guess I'll first start off by saying, as I mentioned before, I chaired the Lower Hope Neighbors, which is a neighborhood association that has worked to vet various projects that are being proposed by local developers in our area. And we have worked to make sure that our neighborhood remains the diverse, economically diverse, socially diverse neighborhood that it has been. That is something that's incredibly important to me, and it's something that I think is important to our entire district. I think there are potentially some creative solutions that we can use to make sure that District 3 and the rest of the city retains the economic diversity that we all want here in our community. There is a land site in Chinatown that was created by something called the Community Land Trust that allows nonprofit organizations to partner with low-income residents with city funds to essentially almost own a part and a piece of their land. I think this is an interesting mechanism that we ought to continue to experiment with. There have been folks here in this room who have thought about whether we could loosen some of the rules to build affordable housing for families. And this is something that we desperately need, particularly for working class families who we all know are being pushed out of our city. I can tell you in my district, I have so many friends who have moved out of the district because they haven't been able to afford the rent, because they've gotten married and they can't afford space for their families. And this is something that all of us, regardless of who gets elected, needs to really put their arms around and fix this and be able to work and build bridges with other members of the Board of Supervisors so that we can build a consensus and move our city forward.
Point of clarification, that we wanted people to be very specific, and if you want to think about it and come back, this was a very specific question. During GNF, during the Octavia housing, the discussion was we can't build it below a certain level because to get a contractor, we have to make sure they make 27 to 30% profit. That's the question. How are you going to get around that? We'd like very specific answers, not general ones. So if we once they're, David, we can
Do
come
you
back.
want me to clarify? I'll add a little bit to my answer
Well,
around that.
You have like 20 seconds.
Okay, sure. I guess I'll say, clearly the experience of Lennar shows that we can do better than we develop in that situation. So I did support Chris Daly's Proposition F, which would require more housing. And I do think it's important to push the bounds of what we're able to do, understanding there are business realities, but pushing the bounds to be able to make sure that, again, our city has the diversity, economic diversity that we need.
Great. And let's go this way. Everybody's going to answer that, so be thinking.
I'm a member of the Barbary Coast Renters and Homeowners Association. I'm a very strong proponent of active community input on all planning and development. I have a particular responsibility in regard to the wharf and the historic waterfront, obviously. I hold the position, I know the attorneys here would agree with me, of the doctrine of the public trust. Our waterfront belongs to everyone. The public trust predates Magna Carta. It goes back to the Roman Code of Justinian. The waterfront, the waterways belong to every man, woman, and child in this city, not just the people over at Golden Gate. And we have a big responsibility because there's always going to be developers who are going to want to come in and build condominiums or build high-rise buildings of that nature. And we, the citizens, have got to make sure that we have strong community input. I know Aaron Peskin has been terrific in regard to that type of work in regard to the waterfront. In regard to the specifics of the thing. Remember, any business decision you make, there are three factors: price, quality, and service. If we want affordable housing, we've got to open up the opportunity for developers to come in and present to us the best way they can make a profit, but be able to provide the affordable housing that we need. We can't create the profit margin. We've got to keep it competitive and let them bring the price down through the competition. That's the best way that I can bring it about. I don't see a heavy-handed government to it. Thank you. And by the way, can I say this? As the first Republican to march in the Pride Parade, and I marched very proudly, and I also am a member of Log Cabin, and I've always been a great supporter of Bevan W.
Earl Thibodeau. Well, I've built malls. I have been an interior designer. But again, I'm going to have to change the direction of this. Why are we going to give our land to somebody for a whole bunch of money that we can't afford and have that many more people that got all that money to compete against us? No way, I don't think if you're misled in believing, that once they get those buildings in there, that they're going to be for you, they're not. I don't mean, so if to address it more directly, I would say if they wanted to work with us to be a part of the community, again, it is about the community. You can have businesses everywhere, and they will go out of business if you don't have a community. Communities can exist forever without business. We'll go travel, get our food, we'll go hunt. We can do that. But by some chance, if we could find some way to work it and let them know that we know what you're doing, and be crystal clear, no beating around the bush, we know what you're going to do.
Yay.
What do you got? Okay, training local, hiring local, and government grants for training the people to work.
Claudia Chang. I think on the issue of cost, it's not only, I think we, as I was as part of the president on the planning commission or the board of supervisors, I think I would really encourage reviewing the planning process as to cost and fees that are associated with construction and building housing. The cost is not just affect all builders, not whether it is for profit or especially of non-profits. Sometimes we talk about cost of housing and we talk about the for-profit builders, but it also greatly affects non-profit housing builders. I was just talking to the executive director of self-help for the elderly. They're trying to build a new senior home in Chinatown, and we're all talking about the cost and what the process have cost in terms of cost and fees that add to the construction. So I think I would review the planning process to look at cost and fees. The second thing I would do, we now have a 15% affordable housing for all developments. I would definitely look at increasing that percentage to a point where it would be good for looking at the housing market, because we need to look at demand and supply, and obviously there is a demand, and why can we raise the 15% percentage instead of every time going to the ballot box and saying, oh, let's raise them for this project, for that project. I think we should raise them across the board. I want to raise is that I think one of the candidates has mentioned about economic diversity is very important. I think as we look at increasing the percentage of affordable housing, maybe we should also look at the mandate of increasing also the percentage of inclusionary housing on site, because we want to make sure that our neighborhoods have economic diversity. Is very important. I think there are many projects right now around town that has included this component, and these are all great, beautiful neighborhoods that people from every economic strata can enjoy. So I'm definitely going to work towards that goal. Thank you.
I have to be honest with you. I can't speak to profit margins at this point, but I'm happy to sit down with anybody who wants to educate them. So having said that, I agree with Claudine that the 15% affordable housing mandate should be looked at. I'm willing to support 20%. I think that's a practical thing to do. No. 15% impact fee. Impact fee, all right? That's where we're at right now. I'm willing to consider going up to 20%. Let's take a look at it. Now, in Lennar, we had labor that got involved. They did a good thing. They took it from 25% to 30 or 33, and that appears to be okay. So for these larger projects, and I think at Treasure Island, we're only at 25%, I believe.
It's 30.
30, okay. I think we can go up higher. All right? I think we can go up higher than that and still make the projects work. So all these developers can tell you they can't afford it. 50%, that might be too much. I'm not certain, but I certainly think more than 25-30% is a doable objective.
Thank you.
Denise McCarthy. Well, in my experience, developers always say that you can't believe that. You have to stick to your guns. I totally support inclusionary housing. I don't believe that we should allow set-asides any longer. I think that it's very, very important for our communities to have a mix of an economic mix of folks, and that is one way to enrich them. And by having set-asides, you're still putting everybody in affordable housing off somewhere. My other thing is that I think that that really you do have to push the envelope in this. I also would agree with Claudine and Tony that I would totally support an extension and a larger percentage for affordable units.
You have more time.
Oh, okay. I guess I just wanted to conclude by just saying, I have done this, and people have talked to me about it and say, well, we're worried that they're going to go away, the developer will go away. The developer is not going to go away. And it's a matter of the community sticking together and, starting up here and figuring out where the bottom line is, and not just don't go away from it. You got to stick it.
Good.
To be honest with you, I can't even balance my checkbook. Let alone, all these figures. But my strongest point is I do listen to people, and I take in all this fact, and then I make some kind of, I hear you, and then I go on from there. I do not have that kind of percentage trending about 15, 37, or 50, because I've been listening to some of you saying that 37% and some of the 50%. Chris Daly proposed 50%, specifically the baby point. Yeah. But I need to translate these figures into my head, see what it is. I will listen to you, and since I'm strong in communicating skills and people skills, that would work out. I don't have the answer for anybody, to be very honest. This is not my forte, but I'm very patient and trying to digest what you present to me if I am in office. I don't say, I have this, I'll tell you what to do. This has never been my style. So, be patient. If you want to educate me, I'm more than willing to do that.
Thank you. Pat?
Well, the first line of defense for any neighborhood is you. I belong to the North Beach neighbors, the Russian Hill neighbors, and the Aquatic Park neighbors. And all of these groups, they have their pulse on the zoning, they have the pulse on the developers that are trying to build in their neighborhood, and without your support, or the neighborhood support, then they will build what they want. On the other hand, let's look at the flip side. Now, how do we know what's affordable? What can a developer afford? Do we start by telling him what his profit margin is to begin with, and work backwards, and see how much building he can afford, how much building he can get away? What is his profit margin? 5%? 10%? 15%? 20%? What's a good profit margin for somebody putting in a ton of money? So, I don't know, I don't have that answer, but maybe there should be a formula of finding out how much profit margin we want to give a developer and work backwards and see what the end result will come. Maybe we'll get more than 50%, I don't know.
We're getting near the end. I'm going to give you at the end 1 minute to wrap up and tell us all how you want to sort of close out the evening. But I've got 3 short yes, no.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. What is your position on medical cannabis co-ops in your district? Yes or no? Support or no?
Say that one more time.
What is your position on medical cannabis co-ops in your district? Support? No support.
With respect, yes.
Yes. Okay. That's
Very restrictive, certainly they should be allowed, but very restrictive, particularly with families.
In my neighborhood, yes.
I believe they should be allowed, should be controlled. Be careful of schools and churches. That too?
I have no problem with it, I'll support it.
Yes.
Yes, in particular, the delivery of medical marijuana. I went before the Planning Commission and supported Kevin Reed at Green Cross for his proposal for delivery. It gets around a lot of gnarly land use problems.
The answer is yes.
Second lightning round question. Do you support needle exchange? Again. Let's start at Sal.
Yes.
So, yes?
Yes. Absolutely.
Of course,
Yes. What?
Yes, it's proven to be healthy.
Will you support the ballot measure that urges all our elected officials to vote to stop funding the Iraq war with exception to redeploy the troops home?
Yes!
Tony, you start, then that one.
I generally support that. I'd like to know the period of time, but 10 months would seem adequate.
Yes.
That one's a tough one because that's I don't know if I want the cat out of the bag. We all leave that. I don't know what's left. So that's a different question. And I'm not for war at all. But
Obviously, we all want the troops home, we want the people to do it in the right way, so however it's going to be done, let's get it done.
It's very easy for me, as someone who supported the progressive perspective on bringing our troops home. I absolutely support that.
I was in the Army between 1963 to 66, and I support bringing them home.
My word, get out.
Yes, I support them, Tony.
All right, you each have a 1-minute close, and we're going to start with Claudia and come this way.
Claudia, thank you again for including me in this forum. Really appreciate hearing some of the questions, because as I think about them, it really helped me to understand more than I understood hearing when I think about these issues. As I started, as we said in the beginning, I come with 20 years of community experience. In our city, there's no lack of ideas, there's no lack of debates on issues. I think what we really need at this time, in addition to experience, is a common sense, balanced approach, and an approach that is inclusive, and that encourage collaborations. Inclusive meaning that bringing people that might not agree with me, if I get to serve, if I'm honored to serve, meaning that working well with people that may or may not agree with me, but trying to build consensus, build the kind of to do something that's the best interest for everybody. It is very important, I think, moving forward, that our city government will be a lot more collaborative and show more civility and collegiality in the working of our city government. So I appreciate being here, and thank you very much.
As immediate past president of the District 3 Democratic Club and as founder of the North Beach Merchants Association, which is currently an 80-member association, I can work with both progressive and with small business. And I've learned between those two organizations that probably the most important overall issue in District 3 is the quality of our streets. Now that may sound boring, but streets can be for public life and they can be to enhance livability. And in that respect, we need to support our frontline workers in city government. I want to see a lot more frontline workers. Let's get rid of a lot of people in the management positions. But that's where we need to put our emphasis in District 3. Secondly, I've had vast experience in development and planning projects in District 3, from the port to the City College proposal to formula retail. I think I'm the best prepared and most experienced to handle those questions. I'm a preservationist, I'm an environmentalist. We will have balanced development on the port and throughout District 3.
Denise McCarthy, I want to thank you all for the opportunity. I too learned a lot tonight. I thank you for your questions. The questions were really good and interesting. And one of the things that brings to mind is how common our issues are across this city. And I mean, what I want to do basically is bring the community together, get people working together to make decisions that benefit all of us and make this city better than it is today, better than ever. Thank you.
My name is Wilma Pang. Talking about bridging, bridging people together, I do have a track record in the community. Imagine Chinatown. There's so many tourists, and so everybody sort of feared, Chinatown, gotta give in. But I tell you one thing, the proof that I can work with people. Closing Grand Avenue was really a no-no, but I did it. And people ask me, how did you do it? I said, no, it's very simple. I worked at it, I went to the community, read a whole page with them, and then as I worked with the police department. And they said it had never been done. When that subject came up, it's always like, well, you shoot it down or I shoot it down. I really made a name for myself in Chinatown. Not because, look at me, or my talent, or what I've been an actress. It's not. It's just that I really, really care about people. I really, really know how to really talk to them. Because I have raised 3 children. Knowing the raising children, how difficult it is when you have a teenager come home and say, hey, don't you think, if I'm not pregnant, you should really give everything to me?
So, again, I've been a renter, I've been a landlord, I've been in business since my 20s. I've been in business to this day. I own a real estate company, which is a small real estate company in North Beach. The only thing I can say is that I think San Francisco needs to go in a direction of trying to make it run like a business, where a P&L statement, I don't know anybody here in business, anybody know what a P&L statement is? It's a profit and loss statement. And I believe that San Francisco uses a P&L as a profit and lose. And there are some issues where I think that we need to balance the budget. If we balance the budget, then everything that each one of us has spoke about today could get done.
I want to thank the Harvard Boat Club for your incredible leadership and for being a champion for important issues of medical marijuana, for the war, for affordable housing, for setting an example for the rest of the city. I hope everyone's had a chance to get the literature that's been circulating, to have a chance to see the folks who are supporting our candidacy. And I want to let you know that the reason they are supporting me is because they know I am fighting for the things that you want, for tenants, for immigrants, for working class folks, to make sure our neighborhoods reflect the types of developments that we want. They also know that I'm someone who can pull together the type of coalition to elect someone who shares your values, bringing together tenants and progressives and neighborhood activists and white folks and Chinese folks and the entire economic and racial diversity that is San Francisco. So with that, I would love in the coming weeks and coming months to continue a very real dialogue with all of you about how we can improve our city, improve my district, and again, thank you for tonight.
Invited by you, and I genuinely thank you. I've really been delighted. I'm delighted to be here. Obviously, you've heard us all speak. We all want safer, cleaner, greener streets, parks, better transportation, better homes. But we all know also that we can't have a better district if we don't have a city that can protect life and property, and a city that can pay its bills. I've been appointed by 2 mayors and the governor. My appointments have been commended by Mark Leno, by Bevan Duffy, by Fiona Ma, by so many of my friends throughout the city, regardless of what their conditions may be or whatever the case may be. I genuinely believe, it's been a lifetime commitment, that all public policy must advance the common good, not the special interest. But secondly, and most important, it must respect the dignity of the individual as a human being. And that is my commitment as a public policy person.
Earl Thibodeau. Folks, honestly, I'm elated for being here. I never thought that I would be here. So thank you. Thank you, and you guys have been very important. Thank you so much. Folks, it's about you. Okay, truthfully, this is all about you. My card says, I'll read it, and I write future in. We, the community, can make a difference for our future. That means every single one of us, if we can actually get together, none of this is not that bad. It really isn't that bad. Get the footman, honestly, get rid of all those junk, the parking meter machines, put some people out there. They need help. They need jobs. We don't need to pay repairs and gas and all that stuff for the car. Those things on the street that we have that look really beautiful. They really look beautiful. We look like somebody's beautiful. My last thing is, people, we can do it, and it's all about you.
We'll come back, our next meeting, our general meeting is